Hello everyone, my name is Ayush and today I am going to explain the implementation of socket programming to stream a video using client server model. Basically the scenario is the video is present on server machine and client is requesting to watch it using RTSP and RTP protocol. So now we will start understanding the server side of our project. So first of all, what we are doing is including few libraries which are sys and socket. Inside this we are implementing a class which under the name server. Inside the class what we are doing is we are taking the arguments from the CLI which will be stored in a variable which is known as server port. Basically this argument will consider the port number which we want to assign to the server side. So all the requests for the connection from the client side will come to that port number. The next step what we are doing is creating a socket while initializing it, and the purpose of creating the socket is for socket streaming. So here we are writing this command to create a socket and initialize it. In the next line what the purpose of this line is to bind the socket with the server port number which we have taken from the user as argument 1 from the CLI. So our server side is almost ready with a socket and a port number assigned to it. This server is now ready to take the request from the client side. So it is basically now in a listen state, and as soon as it will encounters a request from the client side, it will go in the accept state and run server worker client. So now we start understanding the main part on the server side, that is server worker. So we have created a class under the name server worker and we have imported few important libraries. We also declared few important variables that will be useful in the later part for comparisons like setup, play, pause, tier. Here are a few important stages. In state means connection is not established yet. Ready state will be useful there while to understand that connection is established but video streaming has not started yet. Playing state will be useful to describe that connection is established and video streaming is going on, and default state, that is current state, will be init state. These are few important reply messages that the server will send back to the client in response. So now as you already know that there can be multiple requests coming from multiple clients on the server side, it is necessary to reply them separately. So it is necessary to create different threads for handling each request. So here also we are creating a thread by using thread.start function. Now what we are doing is replying to the request. So here we are receiving the request from the client side, and first of all the thing we need to do is decode it because the request sent by the client is encrypted form. So it is necessary to decode it in UTF-8 form. So now after decoding the request sent from the client, we need to separate it. So we will use a array name request and split all the different lines. We will use the first line and split all different words and store it in array line 1 so that we can use them later on. Similar thing is done over here also. So now processing the setup request. So what it does will, it will be first searching that whether the video file name which is requested by the client, whether it is available at server side or not. If it is available, then it will be change the state to ready state, that is connection is established and we are ready to stream the video, or else it will be print an error. Process play request. If the user requests to play the video, then its state will be changed to the playing and video streaming will be started from the server side to the client side till any event occurs. In case if user requests to pause the video, then the playing state will be changed to again the ready state till further notice. Now we will see process tear down. If the user requests to tear down, that is, if user want to close the connection, then its request will be again shared to the tear down and the connection will be closed. Now this is the code for the making of the packets. The packets which are sent from the server side to the client side are made inside this function. So what it does is it will select different frames and make the packet will be sent to the client. This is the code for the reply from the server side to the client side. So now we'll start understanding the client launcher.py file. So in this also we will import few of the important libraries. Now here what we are doing is we are taking four arguments from the user through CLI. The first argument contains the server address. Basically in our scenario both client and server address will be same only. So we will insert the local host IP address. The second argument will contain the server port number. The port number which we have mentioned over here. The third argument will contain the receiver port number, and the fourth argument will contain the file name. It is basically the name of the file which we are requesting from the server. So now we understand the another side of the coin, that is client side. So inside a client we need to import few important libraries. Here also we need to create a class under name client, and we need to initialize few variables. The significance of all these variables I have already explained in the server part. The important thing to note here is we are defining two more variables which are under the name cache file name and cache file extension. The significance of this I will explain later. So now here also we are doing just simply initializing all the variables like server address, server port, then destination port, the file name which is requested, session ID, it is initialized to 0 at beginning, and all these things. Now here this entire code is for implementing the widget. It means that it will create a GUI on which the video will be streamed, and different options or features will be available like pausing the video, set up a video, set up a connection, play video, pause video, tear down means close the connection, and many more things. So this entire code is for just creating the GUI. So So now when the receiver or the client, well, as soon as it receives the packet from the server side, the first thing it will need to do is decoding. Since the packet sent will be in encrypted form, it need to decode it. So after decoding, it will do is it will extract the sequence number from it using this statement. So it will extract the sequence number, and later on it will be see that whether the current frame number which is going on, if the sequence number which received of the packet is greater, then it will display that packet on the screen. If not, it means that the packet was delay packet, so it needs to ignore it. Why we are doing this? The reason behind this is we are using video streaming application, and video streaming application is a UDP protocol. So now we'll see connect to the server. So what it basically does, it will create and initialize a socket, and it will call the function connect. So what it does is it will take the arguments as server address and its port number, and it will try to connect it and establish a connection. If it doesn't happens, then it will show an error that connection failed. So now we'll see the different RTSP requests sent to the server from the client side. So first is setup request. So if the client presses the button setup, and if the initial stage is in it, that is connection is not established, then the threading will be start and connection will be established with the server, and the sequence number will be incremented. And here is the code for sending the request, and after that its initial like stage will be updated to the setup. Here is like if the server wanted to play the video and its initial state is ready, that is connection is already established, and then the user wants to or client wants to play the video, then that request will be sent and the sequence symbol will be updated. If in case now after seeing the video client want to pause the video and its initial stage is only playing, means if the client video is already playing and clients now want to pause the video, then its sequence number will be incremented and request will be sent successfully for pausing the video, and after that the stage will be replaced by pause. Now if the user wants to tear down, that is user wants to finish the connection or user wants to close the connection, and if the connection was any state except the init state, that is connection is not established. So if it means that connection is established and user now wants to tear down, then similarly sequence number will be updated and request for tear down will be sent, and now the state will be updated to tear down. So now, as we have already seen that client keeps on sending different suggestions or requests to the server, so all these things need to be encrypted. So here is the code that whatever it is sending, it need to be in code. Here is a now code for receive RTSP reply from the server, that whatever reply it is receiving from the server, it need to decode them and then it should be used for further. So here is code for all that. The similar thing what we have done in that server part. Here is similar thing for open RTP port. Similar thing will be there. Socket will be created, it will be initialized, and later on it will be bind with the value given by the user in the CLI. And here is like the code for exception handling, that if the user presses the cancel button in the GUI, then what actions need to be taken and like that. So now let's see the actual implementation of the code. So for that we need to open a command line interface and we need to enter the following command, that is Python, then file name and then port number. There is a randomly assigned port number that we want for server, that all the requests from the client should come to that port number only. By pressing enter, it means that now the server has established and now server is ready to take the connection request from the client. So now similarly we need to open another CLI in which we need to create a client side by entering a command from Python, then file name client launcher. Here we need to mention the server IP address, since in our scenario both host, that is both have same host, server and client, so the IP address will be our host local IP address, that is 127.0.0.1. then the socket number of the server, that is we have mentioned is 5440. This is IOTL value, which is the port number for the client side, and the request, that is we want to see the movies.jpg. So as soon as we press enter, a GUI is open, and if we press this setup, then connection will be established. If we enter a pray request, then the video will be played. If we enter pause request, then the video will be paused, and tear down, then the connection will be shut down. Now let's see what has happened. So now as you can see from this on client side, first of all the data was sent, that is using a UDP protocol, a request was sent to establish a connection on playing or entering a playing button. The request was sent for playing the video, and all these were packets received from the server side. And here was pause request, and here was request for the tear down. Similarly, for the server side, there was a request for setup, there was a request for playing the video, there was a request for pausing, and here was a request for movies. Thank you so much.